think that thing, the experience we'll have if we already have that.
Right.
So it's that feeling.
Right, and it's usually not the thing that brings us the happiness. You know, it's like I was talking to the producers earlier when talking about my son being able to ride his bike without training wheels. It's really, he can ride his bike without training wheels right now. It's not that the training wheels are off, but now he gets the freedom of being able to do this thing and the sense of accomplishment. So it's all those internal things, that inner stock market we're building, and that's the self-esteem, the self-worth, that's the prosperity vibration that attracts all that stuff.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
And then so we're keeping then during the day, so we've got 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night, so doable. Like you're saying, laying in bed, you can do it, you have time. Most of us aren't falling asleep right away.
It's funny because I've had a person say, well, I was in bed in the morning trying to get my 5 minutes, and my husband said, would you please go find my brown pants?
Okay.
And she said, I couldn't stop myself. So that again shows, oh, you couldn't even say no for 5 minutes. Do you ever say no? So it kind of shows what the thinking is and how we give ourselves away without ever thinking we're valuable. It's more important I go get those pants right now than in 5 minutes.
Right. So interesting to see if we actually aren't able to build it in. That's good information we need to look at.
That's the rich, juicy stuff.
Rich, juicy stuff. All right. How about another tool? What else do you like to?
Well, the way the group works, actually, the way the information comes up is when I get to hear people's stories and how they're processing through their daily life, and how are you resolving your situations? How are you reacting or responding, and from what position? And are you doing out of obligation? I mean, what's the motivation? I mean, so the next thing is, what is the motivation? Are we trying to please? You know, I have someone in class right now who is an incredible giver, to a point where she had to quit a job because they were taking so much out of her. She finally, the only way she could get relief was to quit, and they loved her, but she's like, she couldn't say no. And so you start looking at those patterns below. Why are you giving so much? Why can't you just allow other people to do for themselves? So there's so much information that happens on a very deep, intimate level. But the process is asking ourselves questions, you know? And I mean, and I have dozens and dozens of questions in the book, which are designed for people to understand, you know, what's working in my life? What have I covered up? What have I missed? Or why did I cover it up?
Right. Which I think is the wonderful thing about the workbook, because all too often people aren't stopping long enough to even ask themselves the question.
Yes.
Right? And I think a lot of times we're reaching for an answer, but it's really the quality of the question that we haven't gotten correct yet. Right? We're not asking ourselves the right questions.
Right.
Right. And you do have wonderful questions in the book in every area. Talk a little bit about the different areas that you address in the book.
Well, and of course, these are the areas I get asked most about. People come to me to talk about their relationships, their finances, all that kind of stuff. And it's the areas that I went through in my life. And not that my life, you don't reach an end. It's not a finite process. Oh, my life is now mastered. I never have anything I have to overcome again. But you can put in place these tools of staying awake and looking at yourself intentionally so you can choose how you're going to react and respond in life. But again, these were the sections that I wanted to share that I've been through in my own life. And in part, when I'm in trouble, I want to go to someone who's been there, done that, who actually got through it.
Right.
I don't want to go to somebody who's never done it.
Right.
So that's the part of the workbook that I've done the work for you.
Yes.
In some regards, and not your process will be different. You know, so we talk about putting some space in your day. And often I'll say to someone, if they have a whole world of things going on and they've created a lot of chaos, just do one thing differently. One thing. You don't have to change your whole life. I know your whole life needs to be changed, but you don't have to do it this week. How about we just do something like taking a different route to work? How about we just decide, you know what, I'm going to write for 15 minutes every day, or once a week, or I'm going to go walking twice a week, or it's just one thing that you can do different. And it's the commitment to those small steps piled one on another that create the big shifts. It's not the dramatic, oh, I'm going to go to the sweat house and burn off, 300 pounds in a week and a half. It's not that makes the change. It's the little steps. So.
Right, and that's the thing is I think we certainly have a culture that's about immediate gratification. So I want to put 10 minutes in and then I want it to actually shift tomorrow.
Well, the neat thing about 10 minutes a day to change your life, and by the way, it's in my learning center on my website for free.
Wonderful.
I have a lot of free resources there. You could see a change the next day. It may not be, it will be something you may not even expect or probably don't, because it's inserting a frequency of prosperity into your space. So for instance, when I've done it in my own life, it's usually focused around my career, my children or something. Out of the blue, I'll get a call, Phyllis, will you do this? Or I have this for your child. And like, where did that come from? How did that show up? But it's just a process of putting frequencies into your space. It's just an energy game at the end of the day.
And in playing with that energy, so there can be an immediate shift that happens. What would you say for someone, though, who says they've been trying that? You know, Phyllis, I've been doing this every morning and night, and and I've really been committed to it, and it's been 3 weeks, and I'm not experiencing something different.
Well, there could be a lot of reasons for that. So again, I have to see what that person's specific block or what their expectation is. And my guess, when you describe that scenario, that person probably has an expectation of what it's supposed to be looking like. And so they might even be missing the forest for the trees.
Okay.
I mean, so that's part of it as well. But sometimes we have a lot of accumulation of beliefs and habits and thought patterns. And we maybe haven't been doing much at all. We just started 3 weeks ago.
Right.
And we have to sort of just get rid of a lot of that energy, and it can take a while. So there, sometimes it feels dark and you think I'm not really getting anywhere, but it's really the consistency in staying with something. But I had a woman, I was on the phone with her a couple of months ago, been depressed for, in her words, 40 years.
Oh.
She used the 10 minutes a day, and she called me 3 days later and said, this is the best I've felt in 40 years.
Well, wow, that's wonderful.
I mean, so clearly she's ready, and she had a shift.
That's right.
So but I know people who tend to say, I'm not getting results. Usually they're releasing, and there's a lot of unconscious and subconscious programming that they're trying to get through before they'll have that conscious awareness, oh, something's shifting.
Right. And it is, I also want to highlight your point. It's also about, don't limit how it may show up by expecting it to have to be something very specific, because it could look like anything that would bring in that feeling that we've been practicing.
And in the process of raising your frequencies, if you will, it's going to attract whatever resonates at that frequency, those, all kinds of prosperity. So what's prosperity? Prosperity to me is when my son runs over my flowers 4 days in a row, and on day 5 they pop up again. I think that's amazing. So just notice it everywhere.
Right. Right. So in other words, I think that probably one of the things that people are thinking is that they're hoping for more money, really, to be specific.
Well, and of course, there's something called a gestation period when it comes to prosperity and manifestation of those specific things.
Right.
And, it depends on the size of the energy, if you want to call it size, or the measurement, the texture of the energy. It could take a little. It takes 9 months to make a baby. You don't get, have sex one night and then the next day you've got a baby. It takes a little time. And part of the reason I think that is because you have to have commitment to yourself, to your process. Do you care about yourself enough? Do you trust the process? All that's part of prosperity. Can you keep that going for a period of time? You and I had a discussion off the air a little bit about, can you keep those frequencies going?
Right.
And you hear about people, for instance, who win the lottery, and 90% of them don't have the money after 2 or 3 years because they don't have the frequency
to match that, right.
There you go.
Yes.
So the gestation period it takes to work through all of that stuff, the reasons you don't have it to begin with, it's important.
It is important. And it also is the level of commitment, it sounds like, right?
Oh my gosh, it's so important. I've had people call me on the air who say, Phyllis, I'm living my life's purpose. I'm doing this job, and I quit my old job, and I've been doing it for 4 months. Will I be successful this year, or do I have to go back to my old job? And I'm like, does any business make money in the first year? Very few. You'll commit to another company for 30 years of your life, but to yourself, 4 months, 5 months is the limit.
Right. And on that note, thank you so much.
Oh.
This has been such practical application in all of this, and I'm very, very grateful.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for being here, and we hope you'll join us again on A Forum for Spirituality.